Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I've had a few technical difficulties, which is why I couldn't do this live stream earlier, which is good for you, though, because that means that we are extending our sale. So, it's 25% off. This is what I'm here to announce at the Halcyon Academy. So, any course, and I'm going to go over the courses that we have at our school, are currently 25% off. So, share this with your friend. All you have to do is head over to Halcyon Academy and use the coupon code Kairos. Seize the moment, as it were, and get 25% off. I'm going to show you the courses in a second. If you have any friends who want to perhaps read one of the great books this year, then perhaps share the link with them. That's the idea, is that perhaps you'd like to read Martin Heidegger's Being in Time this year, or Goethe's Faust, part 1 at least, or Plato's Republic, or Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, then we might just have the right course for you. And given recent events, let's just say, a bit off topic now, a bit of a tangent, I was reminded of Sun Tzu, a quote from The Art of War, which I have here somewhere. I have it here. Beautiful edition, by the way. This one. Sun Tzu says something to the effect of, depending on your translation, when you are weak, appear strong. And for some reason, this weekend, I was reminded of this. When you are weak, appear strong. Can anyone imagine what I was thinking of? Who knows? But it is quite remarkable what's happening right now. So, as these are going to be probably turbulent times where some sort of wannabe gangsters run the planet, perhaps it's a good time to get back to the foundations and find inner calm and peace. Find the purpose of your life in, well, in regaining an understanding for the true, the good, and the beautiful, and also knowing that there is truth, even though we have lived now for several and many, many decades, in fact, under a matrix of illusion, of course, and lies and deception, etc. But that should not concern us here. But what would be better to do if you want to understand these things than reading Plato's Politeia, the Republic, where you find, of course, the infamous cave myth, or cave analogy, a section which has its incredible ramifications, as you know. Plato, we could say, looking back, invented cinema. But there are other people like Edward Bernays who invented propaganda, who almost explicitly in the very first chapter, the very first page, refers to the, well, not the philosopher kings, interestingly, but those unnamed ones who carry these clay figures, or whatever they are, around, and you know where the shadows actually come from. So that's what Edward Bernays adheres to, and that's who he admires, organizing chaos, as he says. You know, we need people in the shadows who organize all these chaotic desires that these people just have, to which apparently he doesn't belong, and his peers, I suppose, in the marketing industry. And so this is the man who invented propaganda. He invented the term. That's Edward Bernays, and there was no one else, actually. I was actually Edward Bernays. And so you could detect things like this when you read philosophy. But of course, with Plato, you shouldn't be as cynical, because Plato believed that the philosopher king is the one who is, first of all, without possessions, and wouldn't be a multi-billionaire, anything of the sort. And they are those who can understand the living nature of the concepts. We need to understand what justice is again and again. We need to understand what freedom is again and again to be able to resist what is going on in the world. And those are the philosopher kings. They govern by their superior insight into concepts, which we are, to quote Kant, addressed by, or that human reason is addressed by. But as Kant says, we cannot possibly hope to answer. Well, I would disagree with that, but that's a different story. So what do we have? We have different courses. Again, use the coupon Kairos and it's 25% off until, because I had so many technical difficulties, I'm actually going to extend this until the end of January. So take your time choosing and think, oh, well, this is, well, thank you so much. How's this work again? How am I doing this? Well, thank you so much, Harris. Happy New Year to you. And of course, Harris, the most generous man I have ever met in my life, has just gifted 20 of you memberships. So be grateful to the good man and follow his work. So Beek asks, any courses planned for 2026? Yes, more on that soon. And no, 25% off is plenty. Okay, so let's just go over some of the courses. Ultimate Reality by John Vervaeke. If you're interested in Neoplatonism, this is a good course to take. Actually, this course and John's course on William Desmond are, sort of modern iterations of Spinoza's Neoplatonism, if you're interested. Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, you can see always, if you head over to the website, which I was just going to share here. 1 second. So, how do you do this? So that's the link to the courses. The coupon is Kairos for 25% off. And yeah, so you can always see when you head over whose course it is. At this, there's obviously mine, Niederhauser, John Vervaeke. Beyond Nihilism by John is basically a more philosophical view on the meaning crisis series. If you're interested in the meaning, if so, he reads Nishida and Stanley Rosen, Tillich, and others. So he looks more at the philosophy of the meaning crisis, let's say. We have a German course on Hegel by Sebastian Ostrich, who published a biography of Hegel 5 years ago, I think, or 6 years ago now. So this is a course in German. We have a course on German idealism from Kant to Hegel. That's 6 lectures in total. That's Kant, Fichte, Hölderlin, Schelling, and Hegel. This is, I think, a really helpful introduction to German idealism, more broadly speaking. Why we have to go from Kant to Hegel, because Hegel really does complete, to a certain extent, the system of German idealism, if you like, and in how far the transcendental revolution by Kant is continued on by all the others mentioned and completed to some extent, of course, by Hegel in the Science of Logic. So that's the main text we're going to consider at this course. So head over to, again, the website, and 1 second. Coupon code is Kairos for, I need to type this up, 25% off, and then I can show you this on the screen. We've got, this is something on Baudrillard, simulacra and simulation. Goethe's Faust, of course. Maybe in 2026 you'd like to read Goethe's Faust Part 1. There will be a course on Goethe's Faust Part 2 later this year. It's a very difficult text, requires a lot of work. And so that will come sometime later. Heidegger on death, or on being and death, an answer to the question of being is based upon my PhD thesis and also the book that I then published on this matter, which concerns the entirety of Heidegger's philosophy compressed into 4 or 5 lectures here, beginning with Being in Time, continuing with the Ereignis and Seinsgeschichte, history of being, technology and language and poetry. And as you will find when you read Heidegger, death is prominent in all of this. You cannot even address the question of being without the phenomenon of death, without human mortality, etc. So, only a God can save us now. That's another course on Heidegger, which is on enframing and the fourfold. So that's on technology and the fourfold. This, I would say, is a beginner's course, more or less, on Heidegger and technology and the fourfold. What other world he sees as possible, not after Gestell and framing, but running, as it were, within it. The return of the gods, as you like, if you like. Heidegger, then, if you're interested more in sort of, I think this course actually on the essence of technology is really advanced. So that might be of interest to you if you want to go deeper into. I reluctantly now say go deeper because it's been basically destroyed by AI. You can't say do a deep dive or anything. It's just that tries AI language. Immanuel Kant. This is a course I'm very proud of, actually. And it's critical philosophy. We're looking at what the project is overall of transcendental idealism and why Kant revolutionizes thinking the way that he did. And for that, you just have to understand, first of all, that he doesn't write an epistemology, certainly not an ontology, but that the Copernican revolution of his thinking is what we could refer to as transcendental idealism, which refutes empiricism and rationalism and makes logic applicable to experience. That's the Kantian revolution. And this is what this course traces, with a main focus on the first critique. And of course, we also have lectures on the second and the third critique. So if you want to understand Kant, then that's for you. And of course, not just Kant. If anyone else is of interest to you after this, Fichte, Schelling, Hegel, you need to, and the Schlegel brothers, you need to have a foundation in Kant. If you happen to be a reader of Schopenhauer and you think that Schopenhauer got Kant perfectly right, then this course will teach you that Schopenhauer did not at all understand what transcendental idealism is, for reasons I won't get into now. Leisure with Dignity. If you're interested in the very basis of, there's lots of talk on philosophy as the way of life, but the basis of philosophy itself is scolaire, is leisure. And this course traces how Plato, Aristotle, Cicero, Heidegger, Bertrand Russell, even Nietzsche, and a few others, Josef Pieper, for example, see how without leisure, there's no philosophy, there's no Occident, there's no Europe. Lots of talk right now about Western civilization. Apparently, Western civilization is back when you behave like a cheap gangster in the streets of New York. Maybe read what this this course has to offer on leisure. Another translation for scolaire, by the way, is peace. So maybe that's of interest to you. And I go into, for example, Plato's myth of Atlantis in this course. Atlantis is the epitome of the anti-Scholaic project, which is why it sinks. So the sinking of Atlantis is not if you're an empiricist, you're going to look for Atlantis. Atlantis doesn't sink. This is a mythological mythologos. It's a mythologos of what? of the story of the of the groundlessness of Atlantis. The its restlessness is the sinking of Atlantis is, as it were, a metaphor for what happens to any quote unquote civilization that is not based on Scolaire. So, or maybe 2026 is the year you finally read Martin Heidegger's Being in Time. Take the masterclass. It's very exhaustive. I address almost everything. Lots of videos. Here's a. This is not by me. This is by Ken Cheems. This is simply, for some reason, not correct here. I don't know why. But this is by Professor Ken Cheems on the death of God in Nietzsche and the future of Christianity. We have, of course, also a course by Professor Thomas Chocking on the philosophy of health on Plato and Aristotle. So this is going to, again, we're trying to, in this course, Thomas shows the sort of the short-sightedness of some of the modern ways of looking at health and how to consider health and how health and virtue really go together. And here's another one by Thomas on Plato on beauty and virtue. So these courses together, these two, looking for the true, the good, and the beautiful, they will be good for you this year. And of course, also Plato's Politeia, the Republic, which again is by me. 10 lectures. I recorded those lectures, actually, I should say, in Athens and some of them in Delphi. And maybe you're interested to read Plato's Politeia this year. I tried to work in some of the ancient Greek. I tried to provide some translations that are perhaps unusual. And also I tried to show that there is no two-world paradigm really in Plato, not even in the Republic, but that the eidos, the concept, is itself alive. Such concepts such as dikaiosune, justice, appropriateness, etc. Here we have another course by Dr. Sebastian Ostrich on Spengler, speaking of the West, the so-called West, the decline of the West. Just so you know, when Spengler writes Der Untergang des Abendlandes, he doesn't write about something that might happen in a few hundred years. He writes about what has already happened. Because why? Because money, as he says, money rules the planet. I'll say this again, money. He speaks of money. That's an abstraction, but he speaks of money and democracy ruling the planet. So the Untergang has already happened. That's in the 1920s. So perhaps you can trace this, because all this talk about Western civilization is back because we behave like criminal gangsters. Yes, well, no, you are just literally in either off, let's say, off money, or in the service of, let's just say carefully, put it carefully, money. Spiritual Cybernetics, a very interesting course by Professor Ryan Hecker. He got his PhD at Cambridge. I'm glad to call Ryan a friend. And Ryan, I put together this course 2 years ago, and it's on Nick Land, Ernst Jünger, Heidegger, and a few others, and goes deep into, this again goes deep. It really, I think, uncovers something about let's say, I would phrase it perhaps more cynically. I might say, the ideology that's prevalent in technology, but with Orion, you would have to say the theology behind so much of what we refer to as techniques or technology. And this is something I have to say, I found this out earlier this year. No, not this year, sorry. This is the new year. Later last year, that's what I was. When I gave a lecture, I was invited to give a lecture at the University of Bergamo in Italy. And I spoke on Heidegger's question concerning technology, and I realized during writing this that there's something lacking in Heidegger, really, which is the aspect. And he doesn't. It's there in some of his texts, but he doesn't develop it far enough. Uh, I think we can only understand modern technology if we understand Abrahamic creation myths. Let's put it like that. Okay, here is one that I'm very proud of as well. A course by Stephen Holgate on the opening of the science of logic. This is 3 lectures, I think, or 4 lectures in total. Seminar discussions, and Stephen lectured really for hours and hours and hours. It says here again by Dr. Nanizina, not true. It's by Stephen Holgate. So Stephen Holgate is the teacher. I'm just the facilitator. And of course, the intellectual life course. This is a course that can help guide you in your intellectual pursuits, insofar as we live in the digital era, how to find focus, what sort of habits to cultivate, and, well, for what you read in the first place. And I always, or learn in the first place. And I hold to what Schelling says in his lectures on university studies, that we should not learn mechanically, but learn in order to create. And last but not least, of course, on Nietzsche's metaphysics, as it were, the eternal recurrence, life affirmation, and nihilism. I look at what Nietzsche says about what the future of Europe is in 200 years, and also what his response to nihilism is, which is life affirmation and the eternal recurrence of the same. And I also, though, look at some mostly his posthumously published works, which I think, can you see them? No, can't see them. They're over here somewhere. So this is what and at the time when I wrote the course, they weren't published yet. Okay, so again, head over to this website and share this with your friends who are interested in the philosophy here presented. And use the coupon code Kairos. Now we're going to run this all of January, because I had so many technical difficulties setting this up earlier this week. So it wouldn't be if I just ended it now. But I think they might be limited in terms of number, but I'm not sure. So thank you very much for listening. I don't see any further questions that I would like to respond to. So thank you very much for listening. Again, head over to the Halcyon Academy course website, following the link in the description of this video, and use the coupon code Kairos for 25% off, and begin your journey towards the true, the good, and the beautiful, and ignore the noise. The noise. Focus on the